All right, welcome. So now we're going to be taking a look at the WordPress Docker that we have there, that DVWP, the damn vulnerable WordPress. Um, this is a CMS, content management system, right? And a lot of organizations utilize content management systems. WordPress is one of the biggest ones. So we have things like WordPress, Jenkins is out there. There's a lot more that we can go through, and just thousands of CMSs, right? And organizations also may make their own. However, they all kind of revolve around the same concept where there's some type of blog and they can update things and maybe upload pictures, things like that. And it really just depends on what the organization wants to do with their CMS. Some organizations also utilize things like GitLab and GitHub, not really CMS, but places where they're uploading things. So being able to get into one of those content management systems is a pretty big deal. And there's different tools made for different content management systems, such as in WP Scan for WordPress. There's tools for Jenkins. There's tools for Tomcat. And so we're just going to kind of go through a couple of these different, more well-known content management systems and see what can we do with them, right? How do we exploit them? What type of tools can we use? Just things of that nature, and also some of the CVEs that are out for them. So following along with our book here, we can see if we can get into our CD into DVWP here, right? And if you're still having problems with, if you're having problems with doing a Docker up on this one, like right here, something to check is that you're not utilizing a bridged adapter and you're utilizing NAT mode. Okay, I just had a very frustrating time until I finally just went in NAT mode and it works just fine after that. So we'll go ahead and we will copy our information here. Sudo docker compose build, right? It's going to go ahead and it's going to build that Docker for us, and then we built it, right? So we have this DVWP WordPress latest. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring that Docker up now. And we can see that that did come up, that DVWP WordPress 1, MySQL, the CLI, and then the PHP which if we can get into PHP life is pretty good. All right, the newest versions don't allow you in it from an external source, but if we're able to get into PHP we can do a lot with that. All right, let's go ahead and we have that bin bash like right there. So we know that, yes, it is working. Okay, we can try to just find this, or we can just do a quick ifconfig on here, or maybe an IPA. Oh, maybe we can't do anything like that. Let's try ifconfig. Okay, so none of those actually. So it doesn't want any of those things. That's okay though. We can go ahead and then we'll do our sudo docker compose run, and we'll try to run this guy like right here. All right, awesome. So now every single thing for that is in there. Right now we just need to figure out where is it, right? As usual. Okay, I was hoping we just kind of do a quick ifconfig and figure out where it was instead of going through all that again. But let's go ahead and do an ifconfig on Kali here and see what we brought up. Okay, as you see, I was kind of messy with stuff. I have a whole bunch of virtual um, Ethernet faces here, but we have 172.18.0.1 and also 17.0.1. Okay, let me make sure. I'm just going to check. We may actually be able to just do a 127.0.0.1.3.1.1.3 7, I believe it is. That's what our documentation shows. So if we can run something like that, then we can get it up and running probably much more quickly. So let's go ahead and check that out like real quick. And whenever you download these things, that documentation's in there. I didn't just randomly say, oh, it must be port 3.1 whatever. I didn't just randomly say that. It's in the documentation where we get these things up and running. So 127.0.0.1, 3.1.1.3.1. Let me see here. It should be LEET. So it should be 3.1.3.3.7. Let's try that like right there. All right, doesn't seem, is Foxpy still on? Yes, it is. We'll disable that like real quick. Try that one more time. And then there we go. Okay, so now we are now in this WordPress site. So whenever I see WordPress, something I like to do is I always like to try to get to the login page. Okay, because we get to the login page, this is actually a vulnerability. It is a best practice to only be able to get to the login page from a local host. Now, obviously, we are on a local host here, right? Because since we're using 127. But if you were to find this out in the wild, this is actually something that you would want to suggest to, hey, you shouldn't be utilizing that WP login page. Other people shouldn't be able to see it. Now, something weird about WordPress is that we can actually see if a user exists or not by trying to log in and then getting a failure for that login, which I actually don't know if we're actually getting a failure for this one or not. We may just log in with admin, which is obviously another finding. Um, but we'll go ahead and we'll try another username and password. Sometimes WordPress also takes a while. It can seems like it's frozen, so you just have to refresh it, things like that. We'll try admin password. All right, and we can see that the password you enter for the username admin is incorrect, which means that admin exists, right? Because if we put someone that doesn't exist in here, if we put that in there, we do this right here, that user just doesn't exist. So that's user enumeration right there. So we can actually enumerate users, right? Now we do see that we did actually log in with admin, which is kind of funny. But what we're going to do is we're going to utilize WP scan. So we're going to do a WP scan, right? And as usual, we do attack H or attack help, right? I don't know if there's a manual for WP scan. Probably is. It's a pretty famous tool. Yep, there is. So, like I said, it's a pretty famous tool. So we can use WP scan, and we can start to look at things like vulnerable plugins, all plugins. All right, we can look at the themes. There have been themes in the past that have been exploitable. We can see if they have any databases in it. That is something that can happen, like right there, where people actually upload databases into WordPress, and you can actually download that database. All right, but what we can do here is we're going to do a WP scan, attack URL, right? We're going to give it the URL 127.0. Well, we need our HTTP and everything like that in there, so let's go ahead and let's copy it from over here. All right. Let's go ahead and copy that. There we go. Okay, then we're going to say, hey, I want to enumerate users and let's say plugins. Now we can also change how we actually look for those plugins. We can do an aggressive plugin check. We can do an aggressive plugin version check, things like that, okay? And the more information you try to put into this, obviously the longer it's going to take to find things, right? So we see that the WordPress theme is out of date. It's using WordPress theme 2020, all right? But we also have the social warfare, like right here, and this version is also out of date, all right? Something else you can do with WP Scan is you can also utilize an API token, and it will actually give you vulnerability results, things like that. You can actually get a free one, and you get 25 daily requests by registering there. Okay. For this course, you can go ahead and do it if you want, but if not, then it's whatever. We also found two users. We have admin and editor. All right. Now, the reason we can find those users is because XML RPC is up and running, which is something that we should not have up and running on these guys. Okay, this is something that we can go through, we can look at, and be able to find different things on there. All right, so that'll be another finding again. This whole thing is one big finding, really. But let's go ahead and let's see, hey, does social warfare have any exploits on it? Does WP file upload or WP advanced search have any exploits on it, right? So we can use search exploit again. Go ahead and search exploit. And we'll say social warfare, right? And we do see, so if it's under 3.5.3, we have a remote code execution. Let's go and check out what we have up here, and we are using version 3.5.2. So now what we want to do is we can go ahead and we can bring that back to us, search exploit attack M. All right, and we'll go ahead and we'll grab this. And we can cat that file, or we can sublime text it, right? See what it's asking for, see if we need to put any information into here, and what's actually happening here. So it's trying to go to this path like right here. Okay. And once it gets to that path, I think it's going to try to set up some information. URI where the file payload.txt is located. Okay, so it looks like we have something like a payload URI, and we need to put a payload in there. So it looks like that's something that we need to actually do, and we have a target like right there. So I'm wondering what this file payload.txt is supposed to be. All right, let's go ahead and do a quick Python and see if this is even Python. Yeah, this isn't even Python 3. This is actually Python 2. We could try Python 2, but I don't think it's installed, and it is not. All right, so we would have to actually change this over into Python 3. So what we can do from here is we can either A, try to change it. All right, we can say, hey, print's actually supposed to be like this in Python 3. Right, or we could try to find a whole new exploit if we didn't really know what we were doing with it, or actually that didn't work either. So let's go ahead and I don't know if I actually saved that. Control S. Okay, still saying missing parentheses. Must be a print somewhere else. So we just got to try to find these other prints. Yep, look at that, huh? So we're missing quite a few parentheses in print here. We could try to change this up like a little bit, right? See if we can't get this up and running. Okay. Let's go ahead and try that like right there. And if this one still doesn't work, we'll just go and we'll try to find one that's Python 3. All right, it doesn't like that either. Okay, so we're getting quite a few things. There's also online tools that you try to change something from Python 2 to Python 3. Let's do a social warfare, GitHub, Python 3. Let's try to find something like that, right? And we do see this like right here. Okay, it did come out in 2019, so technically people should have been using Python 3, but whatever. All right, and I'm looking for a shebang line in here, see if they have one. Maybe if we go down to print, we can actually see if they're using Python 2 or 3. This one's still using Python 2. So we could try to just download Python 2, or we can go ahead and continue looking. Or maybe we can find a bash script or something like that, right? That one's using Python, but we can go down to print. That's the easiest way to see, and it looks like it's using Python 3. Right, so we'll go ahead and we'll go to raw. And let's download this guy right here. We go ahead and remove tech-rf that 4.1. All right, what we'll do here is let's do a quick wget for him, and we can do a Python CVE, whatever, right? And we can do our target, which is going to be that HTTP boom right there, right? Now, something you always want to do also is go ahead and read the file to see how it's actually running those commands, right? So it is putting that slash in front of it for us, right? It's also giving us this HTTP, like right here. So we may not even have to put in the HTTP, like right here. We may just have to put in that 127.0.0.1.31337. We'll see here in a second. Our L host, so our local host, it looks like that's going to be us, right? Which is going to just be that 127.0.0.1. Or we can give it something like this or whatever we want to do, but we say 127.0.0.1. Our local port, let's say 4444, and then a command, let's say ID, right? I don't know if this is going to try to call back to us or whatever else. Maybe that's what those two are for. Okay, we may not have to actually put them in there, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and hit enter here and see if it gives us any errors or says like, hey, we need more information. That's not a HTTP address or whatever else, right? So it looks like it did actually create that file for us, that payload.txt file, and it did. So it looks like it creates that. And it doesn't look like it says payload created successfully, okay? It doesn't look like it actually ran. No connection adapters were found 127.0.0.1.3.1.3.3.7. Okay, let's go ahead and put in that HTTP then. We'll try that like right there. And it says exploiting, so it did actually try, so it may have actually ran it. We don't know, right? We're getting a blind run, okay? So let's go ahead and actually let's try to make a callback with this, right? So we can go ahead and we can say something like cat scripts bash reverse shell. We can try to put something like this in there. I wonder if we actually even need a command. I wonder if we just do something like that. So I feel like if I were to make this, I would have a callback happen without even needing the command, right? But that's just me. All right, we'll see what say 127.0.0.1 on port 9999. But we do see that something did happen there, so that's good for us, right? Okay, and we can go ahead and do our listen on port 9999. Let's go and try to run that again. Okay, it does say exploited. Doesn't look like we actually got anything back, but it is trying to do things. It is exploiting it. Target seems vulnerable, exploiting. Okay, doesn't really look like we're getting much back there. Now we can continue to try to work on this. We can continue to try to do different things to it or whatever else. Okay, or what we could do is we could also try to brute force this thing. I have gotten social warfare to work in the past with making a callback, things like that. But we could try maybe something like, I don't know, maybe it doesn't like calling back to that local host of what we have, right? That 127.0.0.1. That could be another problem with it. So let's actually go ahead and let's try to do like 172, or let's give it like our 192 address, something like that, right? So let's go ahead and say ifconfig, and we're just going to try to give it a 19 address. Say whatever port, I don't think that really matters. We're just going to say ID here, right? And let's see if we actually get a callback with what the ID is, right? Don't know why we need a port. Okay, cool. We do actually get a callback. So let's go ahead and let's try that again. That same command like right there, except for this time we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to change out our address, and let's see if we can get a reverse shell this way. There we go. And let's see if we get anything back up here. Now this may not work, because this may be running on, it seems like it's running on the actual web application itself, so we may not be able to do a bash reverse shell. We may have to do a bin bash. We may have to do a Python. We may have to do an elf file, something like that, right? There's a lot of different things that we may have to do, and this is just kind of like right where it comes down to, hey, let's try to actually read things. What we can also do is we also try to cat something, right? Because it said that we were www data. Well, within WordPress, WP config exists, so we can actually say cat var www. I don't know if it's in HTML WordPress or if it's just in WordPress. I don't know. And we'll say wp-config.php. We'll try something like that. We can also just try var www WordPress. We can try var www HTML. So let's just go ahead and get rid of that HTML at first. But this is something that we would learn as we continue to try it, continue to do different things, and just really just see if we can get into this thing or not, right? So if we don't get anything else, we know that ID works. So we do know, oh, and then there we go. Okay, so now we have the WP config file. Well, within the WP config file, you can actually find database users and passwords usually. So the database user is root with the password of password. So if we can get into, let's say, phpMyAdmin, we may technically be able to log into phpMyAdmin, allowing us to log into phpMyAdmin, allowing us to log into the database. All right. Doesn't look like we actually got into phpMyAdmin. I don't know if that's running on 31337 or not. But, oh, we actually got Howdy Admin. We actually hopped like right in. Oh, because we already logged in, that's why. That's why I was like, oh my God. Okay, that's a new one for me. But we may be able to get a phpMyAdmin. We may be able to just try, just different things like that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to brute force that file. Okay, so if, let's say, MySQL is up and running, right? We could then try to see, like, hey, if MySQL is up and running, we could try to log in through here, or if we could actually get to that phpMyAdmin page, we can actually log in or something like that, right? We can also see if those other ones are actually vulnerable, so we can search point file upload and see if there's anything with WP for WordPress. WP file manager, close. WP file manager, not see anything with file upload. WordPress plugin upload file, WP upload file, close. But we can go ahead and we can also grab this, right? We can say, hey, I want to see if this is vulnerable, so we'll just go out to GitHub. And we can say exploits, GitHub. Right, we can see if there's anything in here. WordPress file upload plugin for WordPress 8 due to insufficient input sanitization. Okay, so that could be what we're looking at, like right there. WP file upload plugin. All right, so we could try to go through and see, hey, is this vulnerable to anything, something like that. But let's go ahead and let's brute force that WordPress instance. So we can do a WP scan, attack URL. Three 337. Okay, and then this time we're going to do attack capital U admin, attack capital P, and we'll just use our password.txt file that we have there. And we're going to see, can we actually brute force the admin's password, which we already know it was admin, right? And we found a valid combination, admin there. Awesome. So now we know his password. What we can do is we can create a reverse shell in a different way. We could log onto the system as we've already done, and we can go ahead and we're going to go over to our, let's see here, appearance. And we're going to go to themes. Nope, excuse me. Let me see here. Yep, should be, yeah, appearance. And then we should be able to go 2020, appearance, themes. Let's try theme editor. Understand? There we go. So what we're looking for is we have this 2020 like right here. We can click on other themes also. So we can do a 2019 if we want to. We can select that one. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down and we're going to change out the 404.php page. So once we find that 404 page, we'll say, or any page that allows for PHP files. So there's our 404 template, right? 404.php. Let's go ahead and click on that, and we can utilize the PHP that we used before, right? So we can go ahead, we can copy our PHP reverse shell here, right? We can move that PHP reverse shell to shell.php. And then from here, we go ahead and sublime that shell.php, and we can utilize our IP address that we have, that 192.168 IP address, just so let's not get too confused there. We'll throw that into IP address. We'll just keep it on port 1234. That's fine. So let's go ahead and do an NC tech LVMP on 1234. And now what we want to do also is we're going to copy this whole thing and we're going to throw it into here. So now we have a shell, a reverse shell on that 404 PHP page, right? So we can save this now. So we can update our file. And now what we need to do is we want to go to that page there, that 404.php page, right? So to be able to do something like that, we need to go to a certain part of the site itself. Okay, and it does get to be like a little bit of a pain to remember, but where we want to go to is to WP content. WP content. Okay, then we want to put what content do we want to look at? What theme is that, right? So themes 2019 we used, right? 2019. Then we just want to go to page 404.php, right? And once we go to that 404.php page, we should technically get a callback, and we do. So if I do an ID, I now www data, and if we do that, oh yeah, there's not ifconfig on here. I forgot. Is there a bin bash on here? Nope, there's not. Okay, so we can now get wherever we want inside of here. So if we cd into, let's say, our var www, cd in HTML, we can see that that's like where we found that WP config file at, right? So WP config, we can cat that again and do really whatever we want to. I don't know if we can get to MySQL here. Okay, so we can't get to MySQL from here. This is a pretty, bare bones system, like right here. But we can go ahead and we have now entered the file or entered into the actual web server itself, and we can really do whatever we want to from here. If that user had sudo capabilities or anything like that, we can go ahead and try to utilize those capabilities and see what else we could do as that user. Now, as I said before, things like that wp-config.php file, that's a big deal like right there, because you can sometimes get passwords off of there. And if you can get into the actual database itself, you can get passwords off the database. All right. Sometimes you have to put the actual IP address into your Etsy host for WordPress, because it will actually try to resolve as a domain name, but that domain name doesn't exist, especially if it's an internal one. It won't exist on your system. So you have to actually put in the IP address into WordPress, which will then allow you to, or into a Etsy host, which will allow you to actually view that WordPress page. Okay. And that would be about it. Let's go ahead and look at uploading that in there. So we can actually do a sudo nano Etsy host file, right? And what we could say is we could say something like, I don't know, 127.0.0.1 is localhost, right? So we could put in 127.0.0.1. Let's say that was let's say that localhost 1 didn't exist, and this thing was called cyber range or something like that, right? We would put that in there, and that's how we would end up being able to get to that other file. All right. So we could put in cyber range up here, and then we could actually go to cyber range 31337, and that should work just fine. So we could actually go to cyber range, and we should be able to get there like that, because that's calling back to 127.0.0.1. So that's what I mean by uploading into your Etsy host. Sometimes you have to do that to be able to see more information. And that will be about it for WordPress. Like I said, this is one of the most used ones. And after this, we're actually going to get into more videos on different content management systems that are vulnerable. And we have a whole bunch of different CMSs that are vulnerable that are already uploaded to your machine. So hopefully you guys enjoy them, play around with them, have fun with them. I'll talk to you all later.